Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the greatest transfer of wealth in modern American history didn't happen in secret meetings or through hidden laws. It happened in broad daylight on national television, announced openly by the most powerful financial institution in the world, and almost nobody understood what it really meant. This is the story of quantitative easing, a policy that was introduced as an emergency rescue tool, but quietly evolved into the most powerful engine of wealth inequality ever created in the United States. A tool that changed who becomes wealthy, who stays trapped, and who slowly disappears from the middle class without realizing why. Most Americans have heard the term. Almost none understand how deeply it reshaped their financial lives. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how the system changed and what it means for your future. Setting the stage. When the system broke, to understand quantitative easing, we need to go back to 2008. Banks were collapsing. The housing market was in ruins. Millions were losing jobs, savings, and homes. The global financial system was days away from shutting down. In this chaos, the Federal Reserve stepped forward with a tool most Americans had never heard of. A tool that sounded technical and harmless. Quantitative easing, or QE. The idea seemed simple. If the government bought financial assets using newly created money, markets would stabilize, banks would stay alive, and the economy would recover. At least, that was the story. But the true impact of QE would reveal something far deeper, a shift in the flow of money not toward people, but toward assets. And the moment that shift began, the wealth gap in America started expanding faster than at any time in the modern era. Origins. The birth of a new financial engine. When QE began, the official goal was to stimulate lending and increase liquidity. But here's the twist most people didn't see coming. The newly created money did not go to families. It did not go to small businesses. It did not go to wages or job creation. It went straight into financial markets. Stocks rose. Bond prices surged. Real estate began climbing again. And the people who owned assets, the top 10%, were lifted immediately. Meanwhile, millions who lived paycheck to paycheck received nothing. Their wages didn't rise. Their savings didn't grow. Their cost of living stayed high. The system created two Americas, one that owned assets, and one that didn't even know QE was happening. Rise. How new money quietly reshaped wealth. From 2009 to 2015, the Fed injected trillions into financial markets. And every round of QE pushed asset prices higher. For the wealthy, this was a miracle. For the middle class, it was invisible until it was too late. Housing became more expensive. Stocks moved out of reach for new investors. The cost of living rose faster than wages. And the dream of upward mobility started fading. QE had created a system where wealth wasn't earned, it was inflated. Those who owned assets watched their net worth rise. Those who relied on salary watched the world become more unaffordable. It was the beginning of a new economy, an asset-driven economy where ownership became the dividing line between opportunity and struggle. Breaking point. When QE returned even bigger. Then came 2020. The pandemic shut down the world overnight. Markets crashed. Fear surged across the country. And once again, the Federal Reserve reached for the same tool. This time even bigger. But here's the shocking twist. Between 2020 and 2021, more money was created through QE than in the entire decade after 2008. And once again, asset prices didn't just recover, they exploded. The wealthy gained trillions of dollars in net worth while millions of Americans lined up at food banks. Stocks soared. Tech companies doubled and tripled in value. Home prices reached record highs. QE didn't just rescue the markets, it supercharged them. And the wealth gap widened faster than at any point in American history. Fallout. The invisible cost everyone paid. By 2022, inflation began to surge. Groceries, rent, gas, everything suddenly cost more. And for the first time, many Americans began asking, where did all this inflation come from? The answer was simple. When trillions of dollars are created and injected into financial assets, they eventually spill into the real economy. But not evenly. Asset owners get richer, non-owners face higher prices. And wages can't keep up. This is the hidden cost of QE, a cost almost never discussed openly, a silent transfer of purchasing power from the bottom to the top. Failed fixes. Why the system can't go back when inflation got out of control? The Fed tried to reverse QE. They raised interest rates. They reduced bond purchases. They attempted to shrink their balance sheet. But every attempt created new problems. Stocks fell. Real estate markets cracked. Businesses faced higher borrowing costs. New investors were pushed out. Debt became more painful. The truth became impossible to ignore. The system had become addicted to QE. Removing it was like pulling oxygen from the financial markets. So the cycle continued, unstable, unequal, and dependent on artificial support. Modern parallels. The inequality engine continues today. The effects of QE are everywhere. Housing affordability is at its worst point in modern U.S. history. The top 1% own more wealth than the bottom 50%. Young people struggle to buy homes. Savings lose value faster. And the cost of living continues rising even as wages remain slow. Q created a world where money flows upward first. And by the time it trickles down, the damage is already done. This is why the middle class shrinks. This is why the wealth gap grows. And this is why the economy feels stacked, because it is. 3 takeaways. 1. QE reshaped wealth in America more than any law passed in decades. It lifted asset owners while leaving wage earners behind. 2. QE created an economy where wealth grows faster from ownership than from work. Labor fell behind. Assets took over. 3. QE didn't end. The system now depends on it. And that means the wealth divide will continue unless individuals understand the new rules of money. Final warning: quantitative easing didn't just rescue the economy. It rewired it. It changed who rises, who stalls, and who never escapes financial gravity. And unless people understand how wealth moves in this new system, they will continue falling behind without understanding why. Call to action. If you want more deep breakdowns on money, central banking, and the hidden systems shaping your financial life, subscribe now. Because the only power you have in this economy is understanding the game before it changes again.